Hey, you did the right thing. Just make second effort and then third effort. Max effort the whole possession.
Hello, everybody, and welcome into a new edition of the Inside OSU podcast. I'm Adam Hildebrandt. I'm the new host. I've got a couple newbies today. Men's basketball head coach Steve Lutz joins us as well. Coach, thanks so much for giving us some time here. We want to get to know you a little bit. Maybe not talk so much basketball, talk a little bit more Steve Lutz and the Lutz family. So let's go back all the way to the beginning. Well, you grew up in San Antonio. Tell me about growing up as young Steve Lutz.
Yeah, I mean, I was the youngest of six. So my dad had me when he was 40 years old, which fast forward to now, I had Jackson when we were 40 years old. But, grew up in a great family, a little bit of break in between, if you would, because, my oldest sister is, retired and older. So there was a big difference or big break there. But my dad worked for the telephone company for 46 years. My mom, she raised 6 kids, and then she was very active at the school and in the CYO organization and all that kind of stuff. But had a great family, had a great childhood, and couldn't be, more thankful for that, obviously.
I know my youngest thinks that he can just do everything that his big siblings can do. Were you playing up in sports and all those sorts of things as the youngest kid, or was the break far enough that you kind of did your own thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. My older brother, Mike, he coached my little league team and did a lot of the baseball stuff, especially early on. My dad was a little bit older. Probably when I was really young, my dad was doing it. And then as I got a little bit older and my brother was in his 20s, he did it. So it was really cool that your brother's the coach. Yeah. And he was the cool coach because he showed up in a dune buggy, or he always had a VW bug car or a Bronco. You know what I mean? Like, he was that guy. But it was great. And between kind of he and one of my sisters, Karen, they raised you a little bit just because, mom and dad were a little bit older and they had cars and they were carting you around and mom and dad had been there, done that on the 5 others. So it worked out well. Yeah.
I mean, I'm 34. I got 4 kiddos and they take enough energy out of me. I can't imagine having 6 and being, in your 40s and 50s. And that's a lot of work to put into it, but clearly some fond memories. And you mentioned baseball, obviously basketball. Did you pretty much play all the sports growing up?
Yeah. Yeah. Very similar. We have this, my family now, my wife and I have the same philosophy. I mean, we'd like to keep our kids involved in as many sports as we can. So yeah, anything from soccer to baseball to a little bit of football. It wasn't nearly as prevalent in our house early on until maybe junior high. And then obviously basketball, but the track and field, even though I was slow, I mean, I did the high jump and those sorts of things, the long jump, but you name it, we did it. Our parents believed in keeping us busy.
You remember what your personal best was in the high jump?
Man, I have no idea. I can tell you it was not great. I was longer and taller than a lot of the kids, probably in 4th, 5th, 6th grade. So it was natural for me kind of to do that just because I had a little bit of a height advantage, but it wasn't certainly my athleticism.
I once was challenged to do that on video, and I did get to 4.5 feet, which I was fairly proud of, but I had never done it before, and I'm sure that anybody who's had any practice whatsoever or athletic talent would outjump that pretty easily. So you did a lot of things. When did you start to kind of hone in on basketball?
Oh, shoot, not until high school. Probably in between my freshman and my sophomore year in high school. At that point, I was done with football. It wasn't for me. I was the tight end, and it was too slow. And baseball, I was a pitcher. I was a third baseman. I was a catcher. So you were involved in the action. I like that. But in between my freshman and my sophomore year, I break my foot playing baseball in the spring. And all of my buddies played at AAU that summer. AAU was just now kind of coming into its own. And so those guys, they leapfrogged me. You know what I mean? Like, they had a good summer, and I gained weight, and I fell behind. And I didn't like that. And at that point, I said, hey, I'm done with baseball. I'm going to play basketball full time, even though probably I was a little better baseball player than I was basketball player, from a long-term perspective. But I loved basketball, so that's what I went with.
Do you still follow baseball? Like, are you an Astros fan or a Rangers fan? Or
Yeah, not really. Not really. I don't watch it on TV a whole lot. I really like to go watch my son play. Jackson plays and is getting to that age where it's getting a little more competitive. So I really enjoy going to watch him play. But not much on TV. I don't watch a whole lot of TV, period. So it just kind of falls in line.
That was one thing somebody suggested. You should ask him what he watches on TV. And I was like, I don't get the vibe that he watches a whole lot of TV. So you get through your high school days. You go off to Ranger Junior College and then eventually Texas Lutheran. And so you went through the full student athlete experience as a player. What did you learn about yourself over the course of that period of time?
Well, I learned that I wasn't nearly as good as I thought, because I was the kid that thought, and I played at a great high school program. Like my high school coach, Stan Bonowitz, is in the Hall of Fame in San Antonio, and the program was fantastic. So I felt like, hey, I'd been overlooked. I'm better than this. So my best friend and I go to Ranger, which, if you've ever been to Ranger, there's no reason for you to go other than to go to the junior college. I mean, there was no McDonald's. There was one gas station. I mean, it was tough living. And I thought I was going to go there and prove to everyone that I was good enough to play at the University of Texas when I was a little kid. That was kind of my school growing up. And I get there, and I learned very quickly that I was not that guy, right? And so there were some things that went on in the program that didn't sit well with me and my character and where I was from. So I decided to transfer back, and luckily Texas Lutheran still had a scholarship. So I get to Texas Lutheran, had a great experience, got half of an academic scholarship, got half of a basketball scholarship, did some work study, and made the most of it. And 3 years later, I finished from there and then got right into coaching.
So with that experience, you even, transferred before the transfer portal was even a thing. How does that help you relate to young kids who are now getting into Division I basketball and going through that experience themselves?
Yeah, I mean, totally different in the fact that these guys that typically leave and come to Oklahoma State are being recruited by a lot of people. I was just lucky that Texas Lutheran had a scholarship. But with that being said, like, I can identify with those guys and not being happy at their current stop. And I tell them all the time, you've got to make sure that when you choose Oklahoma State, it's got to be a great fit. Right? You have to say, if basketball weren't part of the process, would you be there? Well, if basketball weren't part of the process, would I have went to Ranger, Texas? Absolutely not. Texas Lutheran? Yeah, I would have, and so that's what I try to really hit home with them on, in the fact that Oklahoma State's a great place to go to school, a great place to get a degree, and then when you're finished, that's when the network of the Cowboy Nation just kicks in and you're taken care of the rest of the way.
So as you mentioned, you graduate straight into coaching, kind of launch your coaching career. My question is, where does Shannon fit into all this? Where did she come along in this storyline?
So good question. The legend has it that her and her best friend in college graduated from St. Louis U, and when they're done with college, they throw a dart at a map on the wall, the United States map, and they land in San Antonio. So when I started coaching, there were two grad assistant coaches, myself and Chris Beard. Well, Chris Beard was making like $3,600 and free school, and I was making nothing. And essentially they just brought me on as a volunteer and said, hey, if you can deal with it and you can do it, we'll keep you on. Well, in the meantime, I was able to still live at home, and that saved me some money. But school was $1,000 a class, and you had to take 3 classes each semester. So I didn't have any money. So I worked at a restaurant/bar on Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday day. And it was down the street from where Shannon and her best friend Angie lived, and they would come in there and we all got to be friends, and then they would come to basketball games, and they were physical therapy grads and they had been involved in athletics, so it was natural for them to I don't want to say gravitate by any means, but for us to have commonality and to be friends. And 5 years later, a couple schools later, we ended up getting married, and kind of the rest is history.
What a fortunate dart throw. That could have gone a lot of different ways, but
yeah.
Certainly worked out for you all. You said in your introductory press conference, my family is the most important thing to me. Tell us about the rest of your family.
Yeah, so Shannon and I have been married 23 years. We've got a daughter named Caroline. She's a senior at Purdue, and she's majoring in communication, so very similar to this realm that we're in right now. I could see her doing something in college athletics or professional athletics along this lines. And then McKenna is my younger daughter. She's a freshman at the University of Tennessee. And then we have Jackson, who's 11, and he's a sixth grader here in town. So very similar to my own home life. There's a little break in age gap there. And that was in large part because my father passed in 2013, and my brother wasn't going to have a kid. And the only way to possibly carry on the family name would be to have another child. So Jackson is the man.
There you go. A lot of weight on his shoulders. I feel that. I'm one of four, but I'm the only boy, so I can relate to him on that. Now, obviously, you spent time at Purdue, but this always interests me with coaches or people who work in athletics because their kids can get attached to wherever they're working at that time. You mentioned with recruits, you say, hey, do the things around basketball fit? Do you take a similar approach with your kids when they're trying to figure out where they want to go to school?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's funny because I went last weekend to Purdue to visit my oldest, kind of a parents' weekend. That was my only weekend off here. So we went and spent it with her. And one of the conversations at some point was, hey, like, where am I from? People ask me, where am I from? And, she doesn't really have an answer. Like, in her mind, she's from either Nebraska, because she was in Omaha for 7 years of her childhood, or 4 years of her high school career in Indiana. So it's hard for kids at sometimes to be able to identify with a place and call that home. Now, with that being said, I asked her, I said, what do you say? And she goes, well, I always tell them I'm from Texas. Which is odd because we didn't live in Texas all that long, probably till she was 7 years old, 8 years old, somewhere right in there. But nonetheless, the coaching has taken us all over, and those kids have been blessed to see the things that they've seen. I mean, they've been to Hawaii, they've been to Florida, they've been to New York, and it's been a fun ride.
Yeah, that was kind of going to be my next question. What are some kind of core memories that y'all have as a family? Because coaching more and more has become a 365-day a year thing, but I'm confident you also make time to get away with them when you can. So what are some things that you guys like to do as a family?
Man, that's a good question. I mean, for them, I would say, as we're talking basketball, they always enjoyed the Big East tournament and going to New York. That was a really big deal for the families, the wives especially. That was like their mini vacation right before we went to the NCAA tournament. But our mainstay that we always do is the 4th of July week. We'll go to Shannon's family's house. They have a place on Table Rock Lake near Branson. And so we'll go there for anywhere from 3 to 7 days and just get away. That's always been our mainstay. This year was kind of the first year that we actually were able to take a family vacation. I mean, that's kind of our family vacation, but like this year we actually got together and went somewhere. So that was the first one.
It's hard to fit those in the life of college athletics for sure. What about you personally? When you, I know you eat, breathe, live basketball. Does your brain ever turn off from that? And when it does, do you have something, is it game on your phone? Like how do you decompress a little bit?
Yeah, I don't know. I try to read a little bit. I'll try to watch some Netflix or some of those series and that kind of stuff. But really, the kids have always been involved in athletics. So we've always kind of chased them around and planned our lives around them. But I really enjoy kind of listening to live music, whether it's, going to a concert or a small venue and those sorts of things. I really like live music, and I like music just in general. So, I'll sit in my backyard a lot of times and try to read, but really I'm listening to the music. I do like to grill as much as time allows. Our house is a mess right now, so we really haven't had an opportunity to do that. But the home that we bought, I mean, it has a pool and it has an area for grills. So we'll fully take advantage of that once this house gets done being remodeled.
Do you remember your first live concert?
Oh, no. I mean, in college, we went to a bunch, Texas Lutheran was about 45 minutes from Austin and 30 minutes from San Marcos. So those both had really good live music. Probably my first concert that I really remember and enjoyed going to was George Strait used to have a country music festival in San Antonio, and we'd make sure that we went there every year. And Shannon and I were dating by that time, and we had a group of friends, but we would go and there would be live music from I don't remember if it started at 10 a.m. or noon, but I mean from noon all the way till 10 p.m. at night. It was a really, really cool deal.
That's what I'm talking about, and that's a golden era of country music too. So
I hear
there's a lot of good artists. I would imagine if you get asked, hey, by George Strait, hey, come and play my festival, I would imagine that a lot of people are showing up for that. Today is a world where social media can be fickle and everyone has an opinion on who should play what and how things should be done. How do you try to just put that aside? Do you spend any time on social media, or is it pretty much you go over there?
Yeah, I'd use it for the purpose of work, right? So I'm following players, I'm following trends in basketball, things that are happening in our industry. But when the game is over and we beat Kansas and the quote tweeting it or something,
Yep.
I'm not reading all that. And the same with if you lose, right?
Yeah.
I don't read all that, because obviously in our business, there's a lot of highs and a lot of lows. So I just try to avoid it all the way around.
It seems like a smart way to go. You were, the last 2 years, a finalist for the Skip Prosser Man of the Year award. What do you think that recognition says about you and how people in the industry kind of see you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, again, I people that are around me and know me, I know that I don't probably take myself very seriously, and I'm pretty humble. I know that Skip Prosser was a great man, and he meant a lot to college basketball, and he meant a lot to a lot of student athletes along the way, and he was great for our sport, and we lost him, way too early. But with that being said, I would say that, to answer your question, I think that most people in the industry look at me as a very hardworking, honest, direct, and forthright person that cares. It means something to me to have the best game in all of college sports. Like, I want NCAA basketball to be the best, and I will do anything that I can to help promote that and ensure that. So I would say that would probably be what people would say.
Danny Casper, Matt Doherty, Greg McDermott, Matt Painter. I'm sure you learned a lot of basketball from those guys in and of itself, but what did you learn about being a coach from those guys that you worked for?
Well, you learn from all of them, and I've said this several times, both good and bad, right? I mean, none of us are perfect, and my assistants, I tell them the same. I mean, there's certain stuff you'll take from me and you'll go, oh, this will work for me, and there's certain stuff that you'll say, I don't want to do that. But in terms of just the overall being a coach and doing things the right way, every one of those guys did things the right way. Now, was it perfect? No, but all of them had the big picture in mind, and that's to get a degree, obviously to win games along the way, but prepare yourself for a future beyond basketball, to be a good father and husband, to change the trajectory of your family, right? I mean, some of the guys that we coach, we have an opportunity to change the trajectory of their family and then their kids beyond that. And that's really fulfilling when you can have it, or you can accomplish it. So all of those guys had it. All of those guys emulated it. And so you just, being around good people, it's fun to be around them, and you try to take a little bit from them and be like them in that respect.
The O'Colly reached out to Greg McDermott when you got hired, and I like this quote from him. He said, he's real with the players, he holds them accountable, but after he builds a good relationship, he understands that relationship is a two-way street. Why is it important for you to have that kind of relationship with your players?
Well, again, that's the most important thing. Like yesterday, I was recruiting in Dallas, and our point guard at Creighton, I was at his old high school, and he came up there and spent some time. And you get 30 minutes or an hour with a young man, and you feel bad because you wanted to spend 4 or 5 hours with him. You miss the relationship of him being a good husband and father right now. I mean, he came to us as an 18-year-old, and there were some bumps and bruises along the way, as with any student. But, now to watch him be a good husband and dad and to talk life with him was really, really fun. And to me, that's what it's about, so I enjoy that. I think the transfer portal doesn't lend itself to that as much anymore, and I miss that. But, man, it's sure satisfying when you get to spend time with those guys.
We've been chatting with new OSU men's basketball head coach Steve Lutz. Coach, thanks so much for giving us some time. What's your favorite thing about Stillwater so far? We'll end on that.
Cheese fries. I mean, if I didn't answer cheese fries, I might get torched on social media. But no, really, as much as I love Eskimo Joe's and the cheese fries, when people ask me what's been the best part about it, I tell them it's because the people are genuine and real. And we've all been places where people have said, hey, if you need something, let me know. But when people say that here, they really mean it. You know, and whether that's help locating a new car or borrowing their lawnmower, I mean, people actually mean it. And, you know, that makes you feel good about the people that you're around every day. And with that, I mean, we've been really lucky because, you know, there's been some people that have welcomed us into the community, and especially, you know, our son, helping him get on a baseball team or a basketball team or a football team, and you know, expediting the process of getting to know people on a real level, right? I mean, sometimes as the basketball coach, they want to know you because you're a basketball coach, but these people they're not like that. They're not wired like that. They really want to get to know you and spend time with you.
Love it. Love to hear it. Glad you're here. Basketball season is going to be here before we know it. That's men's basketball head coach Steve Lutz. I'm Adam Hildebrandt. Thanks for joining us. Stay tuned for another Inside OSU podcast.